Welcome to the Enlightened Entrepreneur Podcast. Learn how to brand, market, and promote yourself in the global marketplace.
So welcome. It's great to be with you as always, providing you with insight and inspiration on building your business with authenticity and integrity. So today I'm really excited because we're hopping across the pond and having a conversation with Nick James from Seriously Fun Business in the UK. As many of you know, I will be joining Nick and a couple of other heavy hitters in London this May to help you build your expert empire. That's right. Nick has scheduled an incredible event, a 2-day event, where each of us will be getting together to share our best tips on not just information, but how to implement this kick-ass information so that you can build your own expert empire. So Nick, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you as always for having me on. I feel like I should not say anything. You just keep talking because you're doing a great job of telling everybody about my event.
Well, I have been, hyping it up because it's rare that I find someone like you on this side of the world. So as you know, it's been 6.5, going on 7 years that I left the United States and moved to Europe. And so living here in the south of France and working with clients in Monaco, there aren't a lot of high quality events on this side of the world. And there's a lot of people who talk a lot of stuff, who kind of put things out there as if they've got some really great events, but they've either been hype fest or, pitch fest, or they just lack the actual great content, like they've been presented well. But I've talked to people, I have clients in Scandinavia and in Iceland and in the UK and here in France and Germany. And it's been interesting that they haven't been impressed. So when Derry Llewellyn-Davies introduced me to you, I thought, okay. And I told you this, I had been checking you out when I first moved here because you were putting on events specifically designed to help people build up their speaking business. So I'd love it if you would just share a little bit about your background and how you came into the live event space and what you'll be teaching other people.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for that amazing introduction. So how I got into the live event space, I was, I suppose if you go way back, like many people, got into the kind of personal development arena through Tony Robbins, who many people, of course, will know about. And I was actually at Tony's events as young as the age of 12. My mum, actually, I'm very lucky. My mum was and still is a trainer for Tony's organisation. So at 12 years old, I was in Hawaii and Australia and all of these amazing places all over the world, attending Tony's events and volunteering at Tony's events. And so from a very young age, I had probably a very different perception of like the world and business and what was possible. And, I just always thought, wouldn't it be amazing for one day for me to be able to do my own events like that? And so, I didn't really know how or why that was going to happen, but my idea was, look, if I spend time around people who are doing great events, then I'll learn the ropes. And so went and worked in a couple of events companies here in the UK to get started, and then went out on my own and started running small events. First ever event, 8 people in the room.
Yeah.
And so, as many people know, if they've ever run their own events or tried to run their own events, filling rooms is not easy. But that first 8 people, when I've learned how to get 8 people in the room, then it just became a scaling operation. And so it became 30 and 40 and 70, 80, 100, 150. And, our biggest event today was just over 800 people at an event that I ran in June 2015. And this event coming up, Expert Empires, of course, this summer will be our biggest and best ever, with some phenomenal speakers, yourself included, of course.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about why you wanted to go in this direction for this year. So we're here in 2017, and we're talking about Expert Empires, which is really bold, really audacious. In your promo, you said you want these crazy, ambitious coaches and healers and speakers and authors.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, good question. I mean, you actually touched on it before. I mean, I've been all over the world and probably more recently been to the States a lot to learn from the people that I perceive to be the best when it comes to marketing and growing small businesses and using online strategies and Facebook and doing sales and all of these things. I've always gone to the States a lot to learn that stuff. And so a few years ago, I just went, well, it's a shame that I have to keep going to America. And wouldn't it be great if somebody would bring the best in the world, not just from America, but from all over the planet here to London, here to the UK? And then I thought, maybe that should be me.
Yeah.
And so, we've the first kind of major event of this kind I did was in 2014. We had Ryan Dice, who, of course, came over and headlined that event. We did another one in 2015 with Frank Kern as the headline speaker at that one. And then took a bit of a backseat on the large-scale events and just continued my core business. And then it just felt the right time to do something I was trying to pull this event together all of last year, and with speakers' schedules and my diary and everything, it was just really hard to get it to happen. But then we finally got it nailed down for the 4th and 5th of May this year. And the reason that I went down the expert route, if you like, rather than just be a big business conference or something like that, was because it's the industry I've always been in. It's Tony Robbins, 12 years of age, that was my first exposure to personal development, self-improvement. And I've always worked in that space, whether it's been my first business as a freelance copywriter. All my clients were NLP professionals, coaches, trainers, all the way through to present day. That's always been the market that I've thrived in, that I've been passionate about, that I've been well connected in. And so with this event, I just went, you know what, rather than make it some generic, how to grow a business event, why not make it about the people that I care about most and about the people that I serve? And because our core business is focused on coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers, authors, and helping them promote, fill, and run their own live events, I figured why not do it in that direction, just because that's the place that I know, that I love, and that I'm well connected in. And I really believe that there are so many people out there that have got amazing information, expertise that can really, really help people and make a big difference, but they just don't have the sales and marketing or business skills to make the impact that they really could and should have. And so what Expert Empires is about helping people like that, people who are phenomenally talented coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers, authors, and giving them the tools and the strategies that the best in the world use to make massive impact, to get lots of attention and to, get huge, massive exposure so that they can grow their business and help people at the same time. And it's getting that message across in a way that's going to be high value. So, it's not, as you mentioned earlier, it's not a pitch fest event. The vast majority of speakers who are speaking have nothing to sell whatsoever. And so, the event itself is designed to provide massive value and content. That said, are there products and services available for you to invest in while you're there? Yeah. If somebody knows you, Andrea, and goes, hey, you know what, I'd love to enroll in Andrea's program, they can come and chat to you. They can meet with you. They can find out more about it, but it's not going to be pitched hard. Every single speaker pitching from stage, run to the back of the room, any of that nonsense. It's, hey, you know what, here's a load of valuable content. And if you want to continue your learning journey with any speaker in particular, then you'll be able to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring it up again, because I think that's for those people who have been to some American events. Yes, Americans do things on a big scale, and we tend to do, because there's such competition, if you will. Many events coordinators have really made their events look good and sound good, and they're well run, which has been a little bit lacking on this side of the world. But many of the people I've heard, they say they don't want to just go to something where they're being pitched. They'd rather actually get the content that they didn't have to fly to America to get, so that they could put it into practice in their business. And I'd love it if you kind of tell the story about Gary Vaynerchuk and how you invited him and he was like, kind of put a quash on your whole pitch idea. Let's
not be too overly harsh on the Americans, because it's not just the Americans.
That's true.
there are people all over the world that are running these Pitch Fest events. And, you know, I've always been very proud that our events have been a real good balance of what I call selling and serving together. You know, I've always felt that we've given great content, and the old business model that I used to run, happy to say it, was, you know, we get as many people in the room as possible. The ticket prices were very, very low to get the volume of people in the room. Right. And the way that we made it a viable business was by making sales from the stage. And so, you know, I went to myself, right, how can I do even bigger, even better events? And I thought, you know, someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'd been following for a number of years and really, really admire and really look up to. I thought, if we could get Gary to be the keynote, the main headliner, and then, you know, everyone will be attracted to come to the event, and then we'll get lots of other speakers around him, some of which will be selling, and that's how we'll make our money. And so I proposed this to Gary. I had a meeting with him in London when he was over, and proposed this to him, and he just shot me down. Like, this was like my dream event was to do this big thing, and he just basically in about 30 seconds told me that I was a complete waster and a complete loser, and I was wasting my time with him, which was quite a hard thing to hear. But actually, you know what, as he explained and as we discussed it, he said, look, you know, if you're going to have long-term success in this space, then, you know, you need to be focusing on a different model. In his opinion, he went, look, you know, this industry is getting flooded and saturated with too much selling, not enough serving, not enough value being given. And so because these events are empty value, they're not going to have long-term success. And he said, look, Nick, you know, if you're the person that really steps out and breaks that mold, then, you know, you're going to have more success. What he actually said to me is, when, if you follow my advice, and I don't know if you will, he went, you know what, you'll make less money in the next year, but more money in 10 than you could ever have possibly imagined.
Yeah.
And I really bought into that message, and I just said, look, you know, he's right, and I need to stop being, I'm, by the way, the reason that I've had relative amounts of success in business is because I'm very short term and very fast paced. So I'm always thinking, what can I do, like now, today, this week, or this month? And I'm very rarely thinking 10 years into the future.
Yeah.
And so that message really resonated with me. It was a big slap around the face and made me just go, look, you know what I'm doing here, it can work and it can give me some short-term success. But if I really want to make a big difference in the world long-term, then I need a different approach. And so this event now, the model is, if people want to invest in our programs, then great, but we don't need them to in order for this event to be profitable. And, you know, consequently, it's not super cheap tickets. It's not like a free event or anything like that, because, you know, if you go to a free event, chances are you're going to get pitched a lot. That's how they make the numbers stack up. Yeah. This event is like that. This event's a paid event. It's not cheap to attend, and we'll talk a little bit about that, I guess, in a while. But you know that when you invest your time and money, you're going to get immense amounts of value from being there, because it's not designed to make profit from selling from the stage. It's designed to make profit in its own right from ticket sales. We've been very fortunate that we've attracted a large amount of sponsors as well to support the event, which has made it, you know, highly profitable for us as well. And it's amazing, because I feel like this event will probably be more profitable than anything I've done before, even though that wasn't the focus. That really wasn't the primary intention, which I think is kind of interesting when you operate in that way.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of the things that made me say yes when we had our first conversation, because, you know, my background is a little different. My speaking career started as a physician. And so as a medical doctor, at least, you know, at that point in my career, it's definitely changed for American doctors, but we weren't selling from the stage. You know, as a doc, when you're on at an event, you're there to deliver, hopefully, life-saving or life-transforming value. Mm-hmm. So that was always my program. You know, I'm a little nerdy, so I go through all of my learning objectives and I make sure I give everything and give them slides or handouts if they need it. So the idea of us inviting people to an event, and again, a lot of my tribe are in different countries, so we've got people who will be flying in to attend this event. But what made me really happy to know is that we can and we're expected to deliver actionable, implementable advice, so that people, so that just as you've described, these experts who really are ambitious, who want to build a long-term career, an empire, if you will, they're actually going to get the content that they need and it's not hype. So,
and in lots of different areas as well, because obviously, you're going to come in and talk about how do you get, the media exposure you've had worldwide is frankly incredible. And the way that you've done that is very different. And then we've got people like Ryan who are going to come in and talk about digital marketing, which is like complete polar opposite really of what you're talking about. You're talking about how do you create a personal brand. He's talking about digital marketing. He's talking more about the step-by-step process from generating a lead and then nurturing it and getting somebody to buy, which is incredibly important, of course. We've got people talking about like how do you use Facebook and social media to advertise and get your message out there. And what's great, I think, is that all of these topics are interlinked. Like you need to utilize all of these different approaches if you're going to get the personal brand, if you're going to get the recognition, and therefore get the success that you want, make the difference that you want to make. And so what we've done is created a real good blend of speakers with a lot of complementary skill sets. Yeah. And they've all built empires as experts, but they've done it in their own way. And what's great is people can come in and go, right, maybe they really resonate with your message and want to look at building their personal brand so they can get media exposure, or somebody else really wants to master digital marketing or social media or whatever it is. And it might be a combination of those things. Yeah. But it's really what I see as the most important strategies and the most important disciplines to master if you're going to have a successful business in the expert space.
Yeah. And I think that's the key. There are a number of different strategies, and I could see people coming who might be at different stages in building their empire. But these coaches, these mentors who didn't go and get MBAs, they haven't learned, business stuff. Someone who's at one stage is going to get what they need, but they're also going to be hearing about the next two stages up, which I think is incredibly important. So one of the things that I know you're well known for is helping to get bums on seats, as you put it. So I think for me, for all of my personal clients, all of my personal branding clients, which are generally healers or therapists and doctors and coaches, live events and workshops are incredibly important because they're generally taking their expertise over the last 10 to 20 years with one-on-one patients or clients. And now they want to, scale that to work with larger groups and eventually, millions through the media. But talk to me about your approach and how you've chosen that niche. I mean, obviously now that I know your background about attending Tony Robbins events, it totally makes sense now. Sure. But talk to me a little bit about your methodology and what we'll be learning about getting those bums on seats.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, obviously, running live events, working with groups of people rather than one-to-one is where I major. It's not what the whole Expert Empires event's about, right, because we've got a lot of different speakers, but my part in it will be talking about, first of all, whilst I'm not against it, the fact is the one-to-one model, if you're only doing that, the one-to-one model of doing business is fundamentally flawed because you're only one person, you can only work with one person at a time, and then you'll hit an income threshold, which, depending on how well known you are and how much celebrity you've got, will vary. But for most that I've observed, barring the occasional outlier, the majority of people in the expert space, if they're one-to-one, max out at around £80,000 to £100,000 a year, which might sound okay, especially if you're just starting out, but you're working every hour that God sends, and you're limiting not only your own potential, but you're also limiting the amount of people you can help. So for me, running events, whether it's a digital event where you're running a webinar or a live broadcast or something like that, or whether you're running live workshops from, as small as some of our workshops that we started out with, like I said, 8 people. But, if you can get them to pay a significant amount of money to be in the room, then you can still make good profit from it and help them, all the way up to, putting thousands of people in the room as we now do. It's still effectively the same. It's the same system. It's the same number of steps. It's just applied in a slightly different way. So we're going to be talking at Expert Empires about how do you make small events profitable. So if you're a coach or a consultant and you go, yeah, I need to start working one-to-many, but taking a leap to run an event with hundreds of people seems like a big step and it's scary for you and there's a lot of unknowns, you can absolutely make it work with just small rooms of 6, 8, 10 people at a time, all the way up to, of course, running events with hundreds of people in the room. And it's effectively the same core principles that apply. The first one really, and it ties in nicely to your question around how come this niche for me? Well, the number one thing that I talk about whether somebody comes to see me at an event or I'm giving an interview or something like that is, look, if you're going to have success with an expert business, you've got to first of all have something that genuinely stands out and is different.
Yeah.
Genuinely stands out and is different. And listen, I know that what you do is unique, because if it's you delivering it, then you are unique. There's nobody quite like you. The problem is, from a distance, no one sees the difference between the therapist 1, 2, and 3 or healer A, B, and C. They all look the same, right? So there's 3 questions I always ask clients, and I always ask at my events. The first one is, who specifically is your event, your service for? Who specifically? And the more tight we can get on that, the better. So for me, it's coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers, authors, and other experts, which is still quite broad, but it started out a lot more niche than that. Secondly, not only, first of all, it's who specifically is it for? The second thing is when it comes to the event, if it's an event you're trying to sell, what is it about the event? What are you doing that's genuinely different? Or what angle can we put on it that no one else has done before or that really stands out? So, for example, we've got Gary Vaynerchuk as the headline speaker for Expert Empires alongside yourself and Ryan Dice and myself and others. Like that blend of speakers, first of all, it's rare for somebody like yourself to make an appearance in the UK. It's extremely rare for Gary or for Ryan. So we're bringing all these speakers from all over the world together for this event, and that in itself is a huge pull for people. So that was really the angle for Expert Empires: the audience, experts, the angle, different speakers, and then the final thing is, what results do people aspire to achieve? And so in our case, it's like, we know that people who are experts, they're coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers, authors, people helpers, what they want to achieve is they want to first of all get their message out to a wider audience.
Right.
And we know that's a massive pull for them, because they know they've got great information that can make a big difference, but they feel they're playing small.
Yeah.
So the result they're looking for is to get the message out to a wider audience so they can help more people and get paid what they feel they're worth and what they deserve.
Yeah.
And so really that's what we're giving them is that information. And so the 3 things, first of all, who specifically is it for? The second thing, what unique angle or spin can you put on your, not just events, but products, services, anything you offer? And third of all, what result or what promise are you trying to give them? And I think if you answer those 3 questions really well, then you'll stand out with your product, service, whether you're a therapist, a healer, a coach, consultant, a speaker, an author, anything like that.
Yeah. And it's very similar to...
And you do this really well, by the way. Like you're well known worldwide because you're in a very specific niche. Like, you started out as a physician and got a lot of exposure from that, but now you're not talking about broad health, although you could. You're talking about a very specific subject, which I'm always very tentative around, because I don't want to misinform people about what it is. But obviously, your book and the things that you talk about are very niche and very specific.
Yeah, yeah,
and for an audience, yeah,
yeah. But speaking of my background, that's just those 3 questions that you just threw out there. Those are the same questions that we work with through our branding clients, or even just someone who's just going to be on TV. Because a lot of people get nervous about being on camera and they freak out. And it's like, if you always know exactly who you're talking to, what makes you unique, and what's the deliverable, what's that success or the solution that you're going to provide, keep that top of mind. And no matter what questions come at you, you know what to say. Yeah. But, for me,
what I love is I probably scratched the surface on personal branding a little bit with that, so that we can then go through the more tactical stuff to get people into a room. Whereas you go like super deep on the personal brand, which is what you're going to be doing at Expert Empires, so that people get, right, okay, it's not just like I throw those 3 questions out, a little bit just off the top of my head, but you're going really deep onto the personal branding piece, which I think is so important, because bottom line, if you're an expert, people are buying you.
Yeah.
Like really, that yes, they're buying the result they want. Yes, they're buying, solving a certain problem. But really, bottom line, they're buying you because they need to know, like, and trust you, and that's where all your work comes in, I think.
Yeah, and that's really what my message has been to people. When someone comes to me and they say, yeah, I might be a coach, but so-and-so down the street does the same thing, or a therapist, or what have you, or an author who's written a very similar book. But the reality is, with this explosion in the personal development and coaching space, for example, since the crisis, we've now seen, the economic crisis, we've now seen so many people flood the coaching and consulting space. Yeah. But what the fundamental differentiator is you. It's who you are as a person. And it's funny because when I think back on, when I started working with Discovery Channel, doing documentaries, doing the news, and then we started grooming personal brands, it gave me this insight into exactly how the language is used and what makes one show that could be very similar to another, how do we spin it differently to keep people from clicking away and watching? And then, for the last 4 years, I worked with Lux TV and was representing brands around the world in 130 countries. And the interesting thing was switching from kind of persona branding back into corporate branding. So representing people like Nestle and Kellogg's and Bentley and Cartier, these huge, huge brands. The interesting thing was, even though they're well known, like Patek Philippe, these brands, they're always looking for a celebrity or a face, a personal brand that they're matching with it. And why is that? It's because when we resonate with someone, when we can feel that there's just something about that person that connects with us, you said it, we have to know, like, and trust you. Mm-hmm. That's the essence of creating a brand that's going to get you where you want to go. So it's exciting times. I'm honored. Thank you again for having me as part of the Expert Empires event. I was excited that I just shared it just minimally with my tribe, and I had people from Iceland and Denmark and Spain who booked their tickets right away. It's like, okay. It's
been the most amazing part. I actually posted this on Facebook a couple of days ago. I was like, this wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't an international event. It was an event for the UK. I know that sounds a bit selfish because, like, I was looking. It was like, I want to bring these people to the UK so that my community here in the UK can experience the best in the world. Yeah. And it never intended it really to be a global event, but all of a sudden we've had, I posted something on Facebook. I don't know how many different countries, but it's 20, 30 different countries, something like that have bought tickets. The funniest one, we had a guy actually book a ticket, an elite ticket in the office yesterday from the United States. I'm like, dude, it's already all over there. You don't need to pay here for that. But he was like, he's a big fan of Gary and he'd never seen you before, and he wanted to see Ryan live and come to London and experience it all. And, he'd never been to the UK. So he was seeing it as I kind of didn't expect that, but it's, I've been blown away with how far and wide people are prepared to travel from for this event. And
hats off to you, because as I said, traveling to these various countries in Scandinavia and Europe, there haven't been events like this where you could really get high quality talent in the room, where it wasn't just about selling, where you actually knew, wow, when I leave there, I'm going to get stuff that I'm going to put into place right away. Plus, of course, there's going to be great networking. We are going to be in London. All of that's awesome. So
we got a killer party happening on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
The Empire Party. Listen, for me, if we're going to have like all these people from all over the world coming to London, I've got to show them a good time.
That's right.
So we're going to do that with great content and great speakers, but we're also going to do it with a killer party on the Thursday night as well.
I will be there in my high heels.
I got a DJ flying in from Dubai just to play.
Oh wow!
And I've got actually we need to still book the acoustic duo who are good friends of mine here from Birmingham in the UK that are going to come down and entertain as well. So it's not just about great information; it's also about entertainment and having a great time.
Great. So it's May 4th and 5th in London, in the UK. We've kind of missed our little window of early bird pricing, but what other deals do you have for folks who are just getting wind of this fabulous event?
Yeah, well, what we've done actually for people like yourself, Andrea, who are sharing this with their tribe, with their community, we've set up a little promo code. So even though obviously the initial discount on tickets has expired, we've set up a promo code just for you to give out to your tribe, so they can get the original discount as if they'd booked when we first announced.
Oh, wow.
We've been a little bit late getting this out to you.
Thank you. I didn't know that was coming. Thank you.
Yeah, so what we've done is there's a link which we're going to post, I guess, along with this broadcast, which I've given to you already. And then all they need to do is use the promo code Andrea at the checkout, and what that'll do is it will get on a general ticket, it will get the original full discount, which is £300 discount off the full general ticket price. And the VIP and elite tickets aren't discounted any further, but they can use that promo code to get, if they're going, look, the travel cost and the hotel and all that is quite a lot, we can get them the absolute best deal that there has been since we started offering tickets. They get that same deal. And that's good until I think it's Friday, the 17th of March.
All right.
At 5 p.m. And then all the codes are going to cease to work, and then you'll be paying full price.
Okay.
So if people want to register, they need to do it before then. And yeah, we're of course with your tribe. I'd love people to come in from whatever corner of the earth they reside, and they can use that code and get the best deal.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I didn't even know you were going to do that for me, so I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm glad that we had this little introductory conversation. And I just want to say again, thank you for what you're doing in the UK. I'm looking forward to working with you more in the coming months and years, especially on the speaking side, because that's the other piece of what I help people do, is to speak with impact. So, Nick, I look forward to seeing you just in a couple of months. We're going to be there doing it up.
Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And thank you again for the opportunity to share this with your tribe, your community. And those of you watching, I look forward to seeing you at Expert Empires in London and meeting you personally. Can't wait.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nick James and Expert Empires.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Are you ready to stand out, get noticed, and claim your spot in the limelight? Get on TV, radio, and land major internet promotion. Then it's time to brand who you really are, using Hollywood's media success system. Hosted by 20-year media veteran, Dr. Andrea Pennington.